this video we'll be talking about the plumbing model groups. What are they, where are they located, and how do you guys edit them and make more? This truly is just the beginning. These are one of the most beneficial tools for production in the MPP, so they're very important to get familiar with. In due time, users are going to be using these instead of placing plumbing fixtures and using groups instead of placing mechanical equipment, just because you can have so much work already pre-done, or prefabricated design is how I like to think of it. So in the MPP, what do we have? Under families in the browser list here, if you scroll all the way down past all of those, you'll see groups. And right here is all of the model groups that we have for you guys to start. So we've sorted them in a couple different ways, one by discipline, so P underscore. So as you can see, this first, this is now the second iteration of this. We've focused heavily on plumbing groups, and next that will be coming is the HVAC groups. So stay tuned for those coming down the road. So talking about the plumbing groups right now. We've organized them based on name, just since Revit's sorting things alphabetically. So groups that may be in chase assemblies, like water closets that are back-to-back, different drain assemblies, or just fixture assemblies that can just be mounted on a wall. So these are set up separately because you may have different distances on where your waste and vent pipes are connecting, whether you're tying into horizontal vent mains or cold water mains. So that's mainly the difference between fixtures and chase assemblies. We talked about kitchen equipment in the previous video. And then we have larger restroom assemblies, which we'll talk more about as well. So in the view browser now, so these are all the groups. What we've done, well, so let's talk about where they're located. So in the views, in the browser structure, if you go under working and go under symbols, we have all of our symbols and mechanical groups located here. So this is probably right now the best idea of what are these groups? What am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about having a plumbing fixture placed with connected pipes and fittings and drains and stuff tagged, all done in the front end, so that when your users come and they start placing these groups, you know, they spend a lot less time detailing and making connections and just connecting these groups into their mains, running throughout ceiling spaces and things like that. So you'll see in the next sequence of videos the dramatic time savings that can be had with these groups. So once again, these are essentially an initial set of families placed that you ungroup when you're done. So this is a different philosophy than using groups for like a high-riser building that has a core area or bathrooms that are stacked all the way up. That's another good way to use groups. So this is a little different though. This is just an initial set of families placed and connected so that you guys can save time modeling down the road. So on this page, which actually you can see all of these groups are located on the right side of our dynamic symbols legend. So that's essentially where they're located in the realm of the model. They're all on their own design option, and that's important because we don't want architects and other disciplines that reference in our model to be able to see these groups. So what we did is we created some design options here. So we have a dynamic legend and groups, and we've talked about our dynamic legend previously. These groups operate off of the same idea. So all the groups are created and placed for your review on a secondary design option, and the primary is empty. So by default, the primary can be seen and shows up in schedules, and we don't want these elements scheduled. So what we have is you know, all of the drain assemblies. So it takes a little bit of time to create that special T that separates off vent fixture units from waste. So that's where you save a lot of time with the groups, is all those T's are already there that split the system for you. And then we have, you know, fixture groups, you know, single and dual bowl sinks, 3-compartment sinks, you know, and things like that. We have different hand sinks and hose bibs. So I'd encourage you guys to go in here and look at this view. So we'll be talking about modifying this right now and creating more groups, which you guys will probably want to do down the road. And then in the next video, we'll show you guys the benefits of these groups and why they're so special. So if you need to modify groups, there's two pieces to this, I guess, which I haven't mentioned. There's a model group, and then there is a detail group that's attached to that. So this is the model group, which includes the plumbing fixture and all the pipes and fittings. And then this is a detail group that's attached to that. And those do show up in this list here. So if you expand out detail, I guess they don't show up there. They show up under the plus sign. Forgive me for that. So here is the attached detail group to the model group. So with this release, we took things one step further where we're including the annotations for you guys with the group. So now you don't even have to spend the time tagging the element. You can get all that placed and just massage the tags on your plans. So let's say you need to modify something. So first thing you're going to want to do is change to the Dynamic Legends and Groups design option. So what that does is that will activate essentially all of these groups for you to modify. So let's edit this. Let's go to a lavatory. Something very common. Shower water. Okay, so here's a lavatory. Here's a lavatory, ADA. So this one is not a chase assembly. So this would be like a lavatory on a wall where you don't have a chase and you've just got the 3.5 inch wide carrier in the wall space, in the stud space. So if you want to modify this, so essentially this is what's going to get placed by all your users. So you want to edit this group to match whatever your company standards is for rough-in heights or for spacing or anything like that. So just plain and simple, we can come in here and we can edit this group. And now here's the plumbing fixture family that we talked about. We talked about, default values, and these become less important if you place the group. So if you place the group, you'll get the values that these are currently set at. So if you wanted these values to be a tighter spacing, you could change the cold water pipe to 4 inches and the hot water pipe to -4 inches. You could change the waste connection offset from the wall, which right now we're showing -13 inches. So you could adjust that all in this group once, and then all the times that it's placed moving forward, you'll get these default, these instance values, I should say. So just like that, we've edited this group. You can hit the green checkbox. And now you're done. So like I said, if we place this group, so I've added actually a quick access button now because this I place way more frequently now than plumbing fixtures because this includes so much more. Let's search for lavatory. So plumbing fixture lavatory ADA, that's the one we just edited. So we could place that. And there you go. So you just updated that group. So what we've done for you is we included text boxes here. Unfortunately, we can't tag the model group with its name. So it's a text box here. If you update the group name, I would update these just so you know what's what with reviewing this sheet. And this sheet in this view is definitely going to grow and expand. So you guys will see that with more releases of this product. But essentially, here's our updated model group. You could place this on the sheet that needs the tags on it. Well, you could place it anywhere, and then you could go to the sheet that's going to have tags on it, and you could attach detail groups. You could check that. Now you've already got some tags on your plans. Some of these tags you may end up eliminating, and that's just fine. It's a little easier to remove than to add typically. And then the idea with these groups is once you place it, you ungroup it, and now it's entirely live. So now you can move these elements wherever you needed to. So if you needed to move these elbows in or out further, you know, now it's all freeform, everything's connected. The reason we put these tags on here is to show you guys that there truly is connected fixture units throughout, which, you know, all that tedious detailing work and connections have been done once, and you just have to place the group. So now you've got connections here that may tie into, you know, mains running across in a ceiling. So you'll see some more of that in the next video. So that's editing the groups. Now let's talk about making new groups, which is a little different than what we just showed. So I'm going to delete these elements here. All right, so I'm going to make, so we have some floor drains here with some of those vent takeoffs. You know, some are vertical drops with the vent coming up and the waste going down, and then others are horizontal. And maybe it'd just be easiest to show you guys a section of this. So let's cut a section and take a look at some of these groups here. So we're in the dynamic legend and group design option. When you cut sections, by default they're all in that main model. So if you check this box active only, then you can get to some of these sections. You can look at the view. So here was some of those differences I was talking about, the horizontal vent takeoff and then like a vertical vent takeoff where you're coming in to the sanitary T inlet side and your vent is coming off the vertical. So let's create a floor drain assembly that's grouped with a back-to-back connection with the vent connection coming out. So what I would do is I would, you know, like I said, you guys can arrange this however you want. I'm actually going to select a bunch of these elements and move them down. So I'll select all that and let's move this down and let's put our new group right at the bottom here. So I'm going to use something to start with. So I'm going to use this group and these tags actually as a starting point. So I'm going to copy all of this down and we're going to reuse that. So let's place this down there. And then let's, so I'm going to ungroup this now. So all of these elements we're going to want in the main model to start. So we can select the elements and we can move them that way. So we can select those elements. Sorry, I guess I have to take a step back. So we want these elements in the main model to begin with. So what we're going to do right now, and the reason is there's just limited options when you're in a secondary design option when you're setting up these groups. So we're going to delete all this and we are going to go to the main model. So now we're going to copy that group down to start. So if you uncheck this exclude options, you can select that group. So you can select these same elements and let's copy those down now. Copy. So now we just place that in the main model, which is where we're going to start. And now we're going to ungroup this because this will end up becoming our new group. All right, so now we've got some elements to start with. We're going to have to come up with a name for the group. So maybe I'll do that right now. 2-inch back-to-back. So here's the new group we're going to make. Maybe we'll extend these lines down. Okay, and now we're ready to make these elements into a new group. So I'm going to copy a part of this. So let's copy some of these elements and I'm going to mirror them to the other side of this. Okay, so let's tag this just the same as the other one. So CS no leader. So there's our tag for the floor drain. And now let's go into the section and let's take a look at this and fix the sanitary T. So we're already close, you know, in regards to what we have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to extend this out, and you'll see why. It's just so we can see it in our plan view when we're updating it. So I'm going to stretch. So we're going to start with the default T. So we're going to create one on the fly, which we show in a previous video as well. So I'm going to draw a pipe from this so that we can make it into a cross. And now what we want to do is we want to swap this out with the system split cross. So I can select this and choose the reducing double sanitary system split. So now, just like the previous video shows, let's stretch some of this out and bring it back into this family. Okay, and let's connect this one into there. And now we've got to delete that extra system. So if you tab through, there's that extra system that we want to delete. And now when we connect our vent pipe in, as you can see, we're getting 8 fixture units from the floor drains. And it turned black, so now that shows me that there's multiple systems in the fitting, just like I want. So now we have 8 fixture units coming out, we have the calculated values coming in, and we have vent fixture units going out. So now we can close that window, and I stretch this out. You know, this all depends upon how you want your users to see the groups. So I'm going to extend this leg off to the side, just because there ends up being a handful of pipes on top of one another. So maybe I'll leave the vent there, but I'll keep the sanitary going this way. So as you can see now, we have our fixture units, which I'll put there. We have our vent, we have our waste, so maybe being consistent with the other groups, I would tag the waste as well over here. And we've got our floor drain tags. So now essentially we're ready to make this into a new group. All right, now with everything modeled, before we create the group, we're going to do one last thing, and we're going to review system information. So selecting this pipe here, so this really is specific to groups that are going to have this vent system split family. So this pipe here is on sanitary system name SS86, and the floor drains are on different systems. So before we make our group, we're going to make those the same system. So if we select the pipe, go to piping systems, we're going to add those. So that floor drain was already on it. So now everything's on the same sanitary system. Now the last thing we have to do is we need to create the group and then get that group placed on in the secondary design option. So Revit is a little quirky with systems, so we're going to need to actually make that group in that secondary design option. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move these elements now. So let's not select tags. Okay, so we have the elements now. Let's move them to our dynamic legend and groups. We're probably going to lose our tags, and that's all right. The reason we do this is, once again, we don't want this group seen by other disciplines that have our model linked in. And also, we don't want it included in schedule quantities. So now I'm going to switch back to that design option, which is a secondary one. And then also we did all that work in the main model because we can modify system information, which you have limitations with doing that in a secondary design option. All right, so let's place our groups once again. Place those. Let's place some pipe tags. And then there's the vent. So we'll change this one to show the fixture units like we had previously. And we'll move these off to the side. Okay. So now I've got our annotations. Now we just have to create the group. So I'm going to copy this name here. And then let's select all of these elements. We're going to hit the Create Group button. Paste that value, paste that value. So there we go. We have our detail group attached to the model group. Let's test that now. So I hit Create Similar on that model group. So now we're going to place it in the secondary design option, and everything looks good. And we have one last test now to place it in the main model. So I'm going to switch back to the main model. And we'll place a model group. And looks like we are good to go. So an important note is sometimes you may see that these groups will have, the systems will be broken, they'll come in black. And there's many anomalies on why that may happen, but there's an easy fix. And that easy fix is to go back to your secondary design option, ungroup everything, fix the systems, and then recreate the group. So you'll want to override that old group or delete that old group, but that's the best way to fix it. So when you guys come across that, that's what you want to do. And I hope you guys take these groups much farther than what we've done so far. Consider this a starting point.